In today's video, a man who seemed loving and devoted concealed a horrifying secret. The bedroom, a place of intimacy, became the setting of a nightmare. March 9th, 2018, in Binghamton, New York. The day started with a strange silence in Binghamton, a college town in the southern part of New York State. A 22-year-old nursing student at Binghamton University named Haley Anderson suddenly stopped being seen by her friends and family. This was very unlike her. She was known for being reliable and having a lot of friends. It's not like she just ignored calls. That day, she didn't show up to her roommate's poem reading, even though she said she would. Before we begin the full story, take a moment to like and subscribe for more gripping true crime stories that reveal hidden truths behind cold cases. These are cases packed with shocking twists, unexplored clues, and mysteries that have left investigators baffled. Turn on the notification bell so you stay updated with every new development. I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell me which country you're watching from. Your support helps keep these stories alive, honors the victims, and reminds us why these cases must never fade away. Now, let's get started. As night fell, Haley's friends, Josie and Michelle, used the Find My Friends app to see where she was. It was an apartment building not far from school that Anderson's phone could connect to. The address was right away familiar to them. It was the home of Orlando Tercero, a fellow student and friend of Haley's. They walked to the building. When they got there, Orlando's car wasn't in the parking lot, and no one answered the door when they knocked several times. Josie chose to look around the outside of the apartment because she knew Haley's phone was locked inside. She helped Michelle get inside by opening a window on the first floor. The scene inside the bedroom was immediately scary. While Haley was lying in the apartment resident's bed, she was only wearing a blanket and nothing else. As Michelle got closer, she noticed right away that her friend's skin was too pale and that she wasn't breathing. There was no blood or cuts that could be seen, but her schooling as a doctor made one thing very clear. There was nothing that the first rescuers could do. When the roommates found out that Haley had died, they called 911 right away. The Binghamton cops got there minutes after the call. Detectives noticed that Haley didn't have any obvious signs of bleeding, stab wounds, or gunshot wounds when they first looked at her. The way her body was lying made it look like she had died right there in that bed. Investigators quickly focused on her neck. It was easy to see that she had dark bruises and small, tiny bleeding spots called petechiae in her eyes and on her face. This particular combo usually means that the person is asphyxiating because of severe pressure in the throat. The original cause of death was found to be strangulation by hand. The flat told a very different story than Haley's body, which seemed to have been left alone. The scene made me think of chaos, not a fight between two people, but a fight between one person and himself. A bookcase was leaning off to the side, like someone had hid it. As the search went on, the detectives looked up and saw something strange. A wooden ceiling beam near the kitchen had 4 metal hooks screwed into it. A men's necktie that was made into a loop was hanging from one of those hooks. A kitchen chair that was upside down was lying on the floor right under the beam. In the area nearby, forensic experts found a path of blood droplets on the hardwood floor. The marks were clearly from someone else since Haley wasn't bleeding. Another thing found on the kitchen counter, a torn package of gauze bandages covered in fresh blood, added weight to that idea. The proof made it clear what happened in the right order. Someone tried to hurt themselves with the tie and the chair, but it didn't work. Someone fell and hurt themselves in the process. A letter that was left out in the open was the last piece of the puzzle. It was written by hand in Spanish. It quickly became clear what it meant. "I'm so sorry. I never thought I could do something like this. Dad, I'll see you soon. Forgive me. This is stupid. I'm sorry." It looked like a confession before leaving. Orlando Tercero, who lived in the flat, was nowhere to be found. His personal things were also taken away. The bloody gauze and the fact that there was no body under the looped tie led to one conclusion. The suspect had survived an act of self-harm and then left in an unknown direction. Forensic teams worked inside the room at the same time. Investigators started to follow Orlando Tercero's steps again. It turned out that campus cops had seen the first signs of trouble early on March 9th, several hours before Haley was found. Orlando's sister called the police because she got disturbing texts from her brother. Tercero called himself a fool and said he had left his car at John F. Kennedy International Airport in them. At that time, patrol officers did not have the legal right to break in. They went to the spot and saw that the car wasn't there. Then they left. Now that a young woman was found dead in the bedroom and a goodbye note was found in the apartment, that morning call meant something much worse. It was clear that the note was either part of a fake scene or a plan that had been dropped and the suspect had decided to run away. Detectives called JFK Airport security right away. It takes about 3 hours to drive from Binghamton to New York City. Tercero got off to a great start with that window. The suspect was already out of state or even out of the country while Haley's friends looked for her and paperwork was still being processed. It became a race against time to finish the probe. With each passing minute, it looked like one police officer was losing. In the meantime, at 4 p.m. on the same day, bad news arrived at Haley's mother's house in Westbury. Karen Anderson saw a black car parked outside her house after coming home from work. There were 2 guys in dark suits getting out of the car. From inside the house, she saw one of the officers stop on the front steps and take a long drink from a water bottle. It was a small action that showed how important the conversation that was about to happen was. The police did not say much when Karen opened the door. There were only 3 words in their short message: Haley, Orlando's address, and a major crime. She didn't need any more information to understand that what had happened was over. As cops started their search around the world, Karen Anderson called a close friend because she didn't want to be the only one to hear that her daughter had died. To fully understand how sad this loss is, you need to go back to the beginning of Haley Anderson's story. She was born and raised on Long Island in the town of Westbury. Karen, her mother, often talked about a small but important fact. Haley was born exactly on her due date, which would later define her personality. It wasn't just a student for Anderson by age 22. She did very well at the Decker School of Nursing at Binghamton University, which is very well known. Many of Haley's friends got caught up in the chaos of campus life, but she stayed focused on her studies and regularly made it to the top of academic honor lists. Behind that discipline, though, was a person Karen lovingly called a hippie millennial. Haley was a laid-back person. She knew every episode of the TV show Friends by heart and could quote whole scenes from them for hours. Still, her real goals were much bigger than being a student and having fun on the weekends. There were big goals and clear plans for Haley's future. It wasn't her plan to stay in one place. She planned to get a van and move to California. She wanted to be a travel nurse, which is a nurse who works short-term contracts at different hospitals and offices across the country. That job path was the perfect mix of her love for healthcare and her strong desire for freedom. It wasn't just a dream. After a good internship with Northwell Health, a large healthcare network, Haley had already been offered a full-time job. She had only 2 months left until she graduated and began a whole new life. At college, Haley had a lot of friends, but a student named Kevin was the one she spent the most time with. Their relationship went through cycles of being on and off. They would break up and then get back together, keeping their relationship open and vague. Kevin knew that Haley wanted to be on her own and that she planned to go west after high school. That's why there wasn't any anger when their relationship ended. In the end, they just became friends again and stayed important in each other's lives. Things got more difficult when Kevin put Haley in touch with Orlando Tercero, a new friend he made at a party. Orlando was also learning to be a nurse like them. No matter where he was born, he grew up in Nicaragua. Kevin and Tercero quickly became close because they both had Greek roots. Both of them spoke Spanish very well, which made Orlando stand out on a school where everyone spoke English. Kevin directly invited Orlando to join his fraternity because he thought they would get along well. He then made their friendship official by calling Orlando a brother. That code that wasn't said didn't last long. During a break between Kevin and Haley, Orlando started to openly pursue Haley. In a way, she was single. But people in the society saw this as a very bad betrayal. As soon as people heard that Tercero was trying to replace Kevin, they acted quickly. Orlando was shamefully kicked out of the club. Tercero used being kicked out as a way to put mental pressure on himself. He wouldn't take blame, so he changed the subject and told Haley that losing his status had broken him, and he was ready to hurt himself. As someone who wants to become a nurse, Haley felt bad for that person and couldn't leave them. That held her to Orlando stronger than any real love could have been, guilt and fear for his safety. She stayed close to him to protect him, but she had no idea that she was being used in a planned way. That building tension finally broke out into open fighting on September 15, 2017. Orlando had a party at his house that night. Haley went with her friends because she was still worried about him and wanted to stay in touch with him. Kevin wasn't there. After the fight in the fraternity, the two men never saw each other again, but his presence hung over the night no matter what. In the middle of the party, Orlando learned that Haley and Kevin were back together full-time. His response was angry and loud. He started yelling at her in front of everyone, which made her so angry that he had to stop the party. Orlando knew he had gone too far and tried to make things better by telling everyone to drink, but he was too optimistic. He got sick very quickly. Even though she had just been humiliated, Haley treated her with professional care. After taking Orlando to his room and making sure he was safe, she left the house. Haley went back to her room. Kevin stayed with her that night and slept over. Around 3 p.m. the next day, Kevin was the first person to notice something was wrong when he went outside to Haley's car. A knife had been used to cut all 4 tires. On social media, Haley shared a video of the flat tires. Almost right away, Orlando sent her a message saying that his own car had also been damaged, probably to avoid being suspected. That lie fell apart quickly. Tercero revealed that the story about his own car was made up, and he told Haley that he was the one who damaged her tires. The damage was worth $600. Orlando begged her not to call the cops, even though her friends told her to. He said that a criminal case would make it impossible for him to become a doctor in the future. Haley felt bad for him again. She took money for the repairs and let the violent act go because she didn't want to ruin the career of someone who was already showing signs of a dangerous addiction. It had been 6 months since the violent tire-slashing incident when Haley made the mistake that would hurt her the most. Orlando was forgiven by her totally. She chose to let him back into her life because she couldn't stay angry for much longer. It was official that Anderson was back with Kevin, but her limits with Orlando started to get fuzzy again. She saw this as an act of kindness and trust. To him, it was a good light. The best word to describe their relationship at that time would be undefined. There are no promises, but there is a chance of getting close. The people who lived with Haley saw this slowly turn into a routine that was scary and unsettling. Orlando started to show up on their front steps without being asked. He would smoke and look out the apartment windows for hours, keeping track of Haley's movements and her friends' comings and goings. The evening of March 7, 2019, began like any other Wednesday night at college. The sitting room was where Haley and her roommates got together to spend time. They took out board games and opened a bottle of wine. Idle and Taboo were first, and then Haley's favorite game, Quiplash, was played. The apartment was full of laughter and competition, which made it feel normal and safe, even though there was an unsettling presence outside. Everyone went to their rooms when the games were over. They got ready for the day the next morning, March 8th, when they woke up. But Haley's bedroom door stayed shut tight. In the kitchen and in their group chat, she didn't come in or answer any texts. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary at first. People thought Haley was just resting after a fun night because she often went to bed late. When they left the flat, they didn't know that the door was locked and that Haley had already left before dawn. While forensic teams worked inside the house, police started using nearby surveillance cameras to figure out what the suspect did outside the apartment. Police were able to piece together what happened on March 8th, almost minute by minute, with the help of the video. There were cameras that morning that caught Orlando Tercero leaving the house by himself. There were trash cans nearby, and he put some things in them. Then he got in his car and drove off. Later, when a receipt was found in the flat, it became clear why that trip was made. Tercero bought sleeping pills and melatonin at a CVS drugstore. Upon his return, he went back inside and wasn't seen again for 7 hours. Later that afternoon, the next action was caught on camera. Orlando didn't leave the building through the front door. He went out through the basement. The heavy-duty hooks that were later found screwed into a ceiling beam are thought to have something to do with this detour. 8:22 p.m. was the last time Tercero was seen in Binghamton. He put his bags in the trunk of his car and drove off onto the highway toward New York City, as seen on surveillance video. After about 3 hours, his trail came back to life inside John F. Kennedy International Airport. Airport security showed video of Orlando getting through security. The video makes it clear that his head and eye are wrapped in bandages. This visual proof supported what the investigators had already found. The blood and torn bandage packing found in the kitchen came from cuts he got when he tried to hurt himself right before leaving for the airport but failed. Orlando Tercero did not try to hide in a remote country area after he got to Nicaragua. When his mother saw him, she knew right away how bad his situation was. He needed to see a doctor right away because he hurt his head and eyes when he fell off a kitchen chair. Tenerife was taken to a hospital in Leon, a big city, to get help. His choice to get medical help turned out to be the fatal flaw in his escape plan. By the middle of March, information about the suspect had reached states other than New York. 5 days after Haley was found on March 13, 2018, hospital staff saw a person with a highly bandaged head. The Nicaraguan government moved quickly. The suspect, Tercero, was arrested right at the hospital. He was in handcuffs and had an eye patch on when he met the press for the first time the next day. At first glance, it looked like justice had been done, but the truth was much more difficult. Orlando Tercero was a native of both the United States and Nicaragua. There was an extradition deal between the two countries in 1907, but it had a very important clause. A country can extradite its own people, but it doesn't have to. The accused was sent back to New York right away by U.S. officials and the Broome County District Attorney. The answer from Managua was strong and final. Extradition was turned down. Tercero stayed in jail in Nicaragua, where he would be tried according to the country's laws. Investigators had to use camera footage along with forensic pathology results to piece together what happened behind closed doors. There was a start time of 2:30 a.m. on March 8th. Security cameras caught Haley and Orlando walking up to the door to his apartment together. Haley Anderson seemed calm and walked in on her own with no signs of anxiety that could be seen. When they left, the door shut behind them, cutting her off from the rest of the world. Things were going on in silence inside the flat. One important thing stood out. There were no signs of a fight going on. Experts didn't find any skin or tissue from Haley's attacker under her fingernails. While Orlando Tercero was being held, his hands and face did not have any new cuts or scratches. She didn't fight back. The medical inspector gave a very scary reason. Haley was probably asleep in her bed when the attack happened. The person died after being strangled by hand. This process takes time. To kill someone in this way, pressure must be kept on the neck for a long time without stopping. Orlando attacked someone while she was asleep, so she couldn't defend herself. Tercero did not leave the room right away after the crime. He stayed there with the body for almost 18 hours. At that point, he went into the kitchen and tried to hurt himself. Orlando put metal hooks into a ceiling beam, used a necktie to make a loop, and stood on a chair. The setup didn't work, and it fell apart when he walked on it. His head was hurt when he fell, and there were bloody drops on the kitchen floor. After not being able to hurt himself, Tercero changed his mind. He wrote an apology note, but he didn't turn himself in. Instead, he tried to act like nothing happened. Just before he left, he went back to the bed where the woman he had raped was lying. Investigators think he set up the scene on purpose by carefully covering her body with a blanket to make it look like she was asleep. He then got his things together, left, leaving Haley behind in the dark. In Managua, on October 1, 2019, a court case began that would set a new standard in international law. Since extradition was not possible, a hybrid hearing was set up by officials from both countries. There was a judge and an accused person in a courtroom in Nicaragua. Prosecution witnesses spoke from the Broome County District Attorney's office in Binghamton through a secure video link. It took the American side only 8 days to learn about this method, but they were still able to get 17 witnesses ready for the live video testimony. Karen Anderson was the first person to show up on the screens. The Nicaraguan judge heard what she said right away thanks to a speaker sitting next to her. Haley's friends, like Kevin, were following her. Kevin later swore under oath about what happened with the slashed tires, which showed that she was stalking people. Based on forensic data, the medical examiner in the United States who did the autopsy said it was very likely that the victim was asleep when they were attacked. Orlando Tercero's defense did not focus on saying he wasn't guilty of the crime. Instead, it was meant to make him less responsible. It was his lawyer's argument that he had a brief mental breakdown because he was so drunk. The defense said Orlando had a lot to drink, lost control, and when he woke up, Haley was already dead. They told him that he had no memory of that night at all. That plan fell apart when the defense's only witness, a doctor, was questioned. The expert agreed that Tercero was mentally stable at the time of the evaluation, but they could not scientifically back up the claim that he or she briefly lost consciousness at the time of the crime. The expert agreed that it is impossible to know for sure what someone's mental state was after the event. These contradictions were used to help the Nicaraguan prosecutor, a woman whose name was not stressed in the transcripts but whose actions were described in great detail. She based her case on jealousy and total control, and she strongly disagreed with the idea that what happened was just a coincidence. Karen Anderson later pointed out an interesting thing about the former student's behavior while watching the event through a screen. During the hearings, Orlando showed no regret or fear as people talked about the death of a woman he had called a friend. Haley's mother said that he just sat there and looked clearly bored. The judge only needed a 90-minute break to make a choice. She gave the decision when she got back to the courtroom. The police found Orlando Tercero guilty. The defense's claim that the defendant was drunk was totally thrown out. The court said that what he did was not just a crime, but femicide, which is a crime based on hate and possessiveness toward women. In her decision, the judge said Orlando killed Haley because he couldn't stand the thought of losing power. Based on Nicaraguan law, the sentence was the harshest that could be given. Tercero was given a 30-year prison term. In the United States, someone with a sentence of 25 years to life can still get parole after 10 years. In Nicaragua, however, this kind of punishment is permanent. Orlando will spend 30 years in prison and will not be able to get out early or be reviewed. He thought the flight would lead him to freedom, but it put him in almost inhumane conditions. He was sent to El Chipote prison to do his time. A lot of people know this place as one of the worst prisons in Latin America. Human rights groups have written about the extreme physical and mental abuse that happened there, such as being locked up for long periods of time in darkness or bright light, getting electric shocks, being beaten badly, and not getting food or water for days on end. Orlando ended up in a system where basic human rights are often ignored because he was trying to avoid an American court. The defense didn't succeed in their attempts to overturn the decision. An appellate court turned down the lawyer's request for a new psychiatric exam in February 2020. The sentence stayed in place. The U.S. government also kept an open arrest warrant on file. If Tercero is ever freed and goes to leave Nicaragua, he will be arrested right away so that American law can be applied to him. The story of Haley Anderson did not end in court. Instead, it ended on the stage at Binghamton University. She missed her graduation by only 2 months, but her picture was on an empty chair among the grads. Gordon Anderson, Haley's dad, came out on stage when her name was called. In honor of his daughter, he took a bachelor's degree. Karen Anderson turned her sadness into a lawsuit. She started a plea to have the word femicide officially recognized in U.S. law. This way, similar crimes could be categorized and punished with full awareness of how they were done with control and obsession in mind. Thank you for staying till the end and giving your time here. The world is unpredictable, and moments can change in an instant. That's why staying alert, aware, and mindful is more important than ever. Every detail counts, and being prepared can make all the difference. If you want to stay up to date with content that sharpens your awareness and keeps you ready for anything, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss what's coming next. Your support helps this channel grow and continue delivering content that matters. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Every comment is read and valued, and your engagement strengthens this community, making it more aware and connected. And if you feel someone else could benefit from this, don't forget to share this video. Awareness spreads when it reaches the right eyes and minds. Stay vigilant, trust your instincts, and keep your senses sharp at all times. Life can shift without warning, and sometimes the smallest observation carries the greatest meaning. Thank you again for watching, supporting the channel, and being part of this journey. Stay safe, stay alert, and I'll see you in the next video.